Welcome everyone to a wonderful episode of Entrepreneurial. Tonight we have the lovely Paula Denoncourt, and she is here to talk about her journey and success with being an advocate for Lyme disease. Welcome, Miss Paula. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming on. Coming on. You have an interesting, inspiring, and touching story. And when I heard it, I was like, wow, this is a must for everyone because you don't hear about the topics that we're going to be talking about tonight.
Right.
Um, so we also have with us Derrick Jaybkird Davis. He is the CEO of Community Resources for Community Building. And he is here with us today to ask some questions along with me as we talk to Miss Paula. Miss Paula, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? And Miss
Sure. I'm a health coach. Been doing my business since about 2010. I grew up in Massachusetts. I'm now in North Carolina now. Now in North Carolina. Yeah, that makes sense. I moved to North Carolina a few years ago, got sick of the cold and crappy winters, so it was time for somewhere warm. Um, Worked in a prison for 22 years. That took a toll on my health. So I became a health coach from there.
okay. It is interesting how we met you. Mr. Derrick met you first on Owl. And I want you to talk a little bit about that, but Derrick Davis, are you going to introduce yourself, sir? Can't hear you.
I'm sorry, everyone. Yes, I was just giving you young ladies a chance to break the ice. Because you see the dilemma that I'm in tonight. I have my little baby, my little granddaughter. So, you know. But hello everyone. My name is Derrick. Everyone knows me as Jaybird Lobster Davis, and I'm the CEO of Lobster Beats, and I'm also the executive producer of Entrepreneur Empire. And I met the lovely Miss Paula Denoncourt on the Owl app. And I suggest that you guys right now go and get the Owl app. It's a very great app to meet great people. I mean,
Yeah.
I've learned a lot from people, and it's things that I've learned that I didn't even know exist. And the things that people go through. So when I met Miss Paula, man, her story was so intriguing that I just really wanted to get her onto the show. I mean, really intriguing. The people that we meet, and she's, I mean, and here she is tonight. And of course, we're going to be asking her a few questions because this is very good information for people out here with health concerns that you may have some of these things going on with your health and maybe being misdiagnosed, or you guys may just not think that it's serious, that you could die from the symptoms that you're having. So she's going to come with some valuable information tonight that will open your eyes and educate you guys, especially about going and getting yourselves checked. Okay, Miss Denoncourt, tell me a little bit about where you grew up, and your childhood and up, during school and your schooling.
Sure. So I grew up, like I said, I grew up in Massachusetts, a very small town, Central Mass. I was actually like the shyest girl in the class, believe it or not. And now here I am on TV shows. But yeah, I grew up in Central Mass. Um, let's see, what else? What was the second question?
Just tell me a little bit about just what were your activities growing up? Um, did you know if you had any of these illnesses even before you grew up? I mean, what was your life in high school?
Okay.
And in your college upbringing to bring you to your expertise to where you are today.
Okay. So yeah, growing up, like I said, I was the shyest girl in the class. I was kind of sick growing up. I had asthma and allergies, which was very challenging as a child because back when I grew up, and I'm not afraid to say it, I'm 55. we didn't have a lot of medicines for asthma. So I would have I had this little spin thing that everybody made fun of. And then little by little, we had, I think it was called Prevential, and I was finally able to breathe when I ran. But every time I took a gym class, or you had to run, you know, after gym, you'd run around the gym, whatever, I was always having an asthma attack. So I did grow up somewhat sickly. I always had seasonal allergies. I used to get allergy shots every 3 weeks for my allergies.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's very challenging to say the least. I even remember, back in those days, things were pretty safe back then. So all the neighbors would be playing hide and seek. Not Paula, I couldn't run around with all the other kids because I would have asthma attacks and have a hard time breathing. So I grew up kind of somewhat sick all the time. I mean, not so sick that I was hospitalized, but, not feeling so well. Like I remember summers, a lot of times I'd have to be locked in my bedroom with the air conditioner on because I couldn't
Wow.
breathe outside. Humidity would
Yeah.
kill
Yeah.
me. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So so during all of that time, and then growing up, and then going through school, and then now you worked in the prison system for 22 years.
I
I mean,
did.
so now all of this time, were you preparing? Were you preparing for this? Doing, coming up with, did you study for this, or was that something that
Oh,
was in your mind, or was that something that you just went out on a wing and did?
oh no, no, no. No, I was a dispatcher in a prison. It was an all-male prison in Massachusetts, Central Mass. I worked in the heart of the institution called Special Services. Everything went through me. I worked 3 to 11. So, um, excuse my language, but that's when shit would hit the fan. That's when we'd have riots. That's when we'd have hate.
Yeah.
That's when we had stabbings, and it all went through me. So as soon as I came in at 3 o'clock, and I was also kind of the go-to person, like later on they'd have like roll call and stuff, but back in the day they didn't. So they'd all call me, Paula, who's like covering hospital duty? Who's doing this? Who's doing, it was like, I would just be like, wait a minute, I don't know what the heck's going on. I just walked in the door. So it was just everything always went through me. The phones would be off the wall. And then if stuff started happening, I was the one that had to make all the phone calls to get the deputies, to get approvals, all of that. If you had to call ambulances, I had to do it. So, and then I always had to have somebody on with me, but politics are. There are certain people that get away with a lot and they weren't always there. So sometimes they'd have an officer cover with me. As soon as it got busy, they were out the door. Like, well, can't help you.
Yep, as
So
soon as
I'd
they're
be
gone,
like,
just a few minutes later, that's when that hits the fan.
Yeah, sound like they just left you stranded in your
oh,
time of need.
yeah, they would. Yep. I honestly don't even know how I did it all. Don't even know how I did it all. I mean, I just did it because in the old days, I did stuff for records too, especially on weekends or nights. So what that meant was you would have to check to see if there are any warrants on the inmates, to see if they've ever attempted suicide. So, I mean, I was like running all this stuff on the computer,
Wow.
answering phones, answering the radio. Just to give you an idea, when I started in 1990, we had about 800 inmates. When I left, I forget which year it was, 2012 or 13, somewhere around there. We had about 1,100, 1,200 inmates, almost up to
Wow.
1,300 inmates, all male prison.
Mm.
So
Wow.
think about that. I used to be the shyest girl in the class. Okay. Afraid of my own shadow, not kidding you. Used to sit in the back of the class, didn't want to raise my hand, none of that. And then working in a prison. And here's the even funnier part. I wound up working with some of the guys I went to school with, elementary school. And I'll
Wow.
never forget, like one day I was walking in, just, I don't know, maybe a few days after I started, and I looked at one of them, this guy walking in, and I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, well, I'm going to be working here. So we all wound up working together. And here was the funniest part about that. We used to joke about it. They used to cheat on my papers. And I was like, well, look where it got you. We're all in
Okay.
jail.
Yeah.
They would cheat on your papers.
Yeah, cheat
Yeah.
on.
In school.
Yeah, to get the grades.
Right.
Oh,
So we used to joke about it.
yeah. Yeah, that's
So
something
every
to
time
joke
you get
about.
a plaque or you get an accolade, that's mine right there.
Yeah. But it was stressful. It was a lot of times you didn't even get relieved to go to the bathroom. I mean, I know it's illegal, but they got away with it. Or you'd ask for somebody to relieve you. It'd take them 2 hours to come relieve you. So,
Ooh.
some you get forced. You could be starting 3 to 11, not finishing until 11 to 7 shift, or you
Wow.
start 7 to 3 shift, not finish until 3 to 11. So it's just very stressful. Phones off the wall, the radio, not always having somebody working with you, not being relieved all the time, like you're supposed to. So all that stress took a toll on my health, plain and
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah, you was wearing so many hats, like 12 or 13 people was supposed to have at least two of those apiece.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Because my
wow.
next
That's
question then is the spur look is like, well, what how did you just I mean, you had to like what you were doing, I believe. I
Quite
mean
a few years
22
I enjoyed
years?
it. We used to have fun. We made it a fun job. And then as the years went on, it started getting more political. We had different people start coming in, and they were trying to make it like more like a police job, and
Yeah.
it wasn't fun anymore. But
hmm.
Yeah.
back in the early days, it was actually fun. We used to, we just if you didn't laugh, you wouldn't survive. You had to laugh at a lot of the things. We used to say
Because
you
I
can't
can
be cut.
imagine, like you say, some of the things you would see or hear or hear about in there from some of the other guard or us from some of the guards or that you actually see yourself would be like
Hmm.
no one could probably believe some of this.
Well, I'll give you
So,
one story that was actually my fault. I admit it. So, one thing about uh, the prison, or in a lot of prisons, they're all, and nothing against Irish people, but a lot of them are Irish, Italian. They like to drink, they like to party. So we had a riot one night. Now, this was shortly after I started working there. I didn't know how to think about these things. All I could think about was like, oh my God, we got to get a hold of my boss. I'm like, he's probably down at, I forgot this pub that they used to hang out at. Well, dummy me, I'm calling just to get a hold of my boss. But guess what happens? They're all down there. That's where they hang out. They all came up drunk. We had
oh,
to come out of the office and everything. They're like, well, I think you should do that. I'm like, out.
oh,
So that was my fault. I'm trying to get a hold of my boss.
oh,
They all come running up because they're like, oh my God, there's a riot. I didn't know the whole clan was going to come up.
yeah.
So that
You
was
have
one
to,
funny
so the
story.
guys should have let me know when you're going to be doing this and when you may be inebriated. Then I may not call you specifically, or may not. I'll
Yeah, I learned
find
my
Hmm.
lesson.
avenues.
Oh yeah, there was one that just kept calling us. Like, I don't know, he was standing at the bottom of the driveway and he just kept calling, and I'd hang up on him. Like, yeah, you're done. Go away.
I can imagine
Yeah.
22 years of that. So you have, I mean, it seems like you enjoyed it because you're smiling about it and you're not griping about it. So I think,
Oh,
until up
like I
to,
said, you
up
have
to
to laugh. But yeah,
yeah,
it had a lot of negativity, But we had to laugh to work there. You just wouldn't have survived.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now, from 22 years of working in the prison system and now how did you go from working in the prison to becoming a health consultant? How did that happen?
Yeah. So, like I said, it started to take a toll on my health. I developed multiple food allergies. I started to be like allergic to everything. It started to happen. I forget if it was the year 2000 or 2001. I remember it very clearly. It was Christmas dinner or Christmas night. Um, I took a bite of turkey, took a sip of wine, a little bit of spinach, and I just went into shock and I couldn't swallow it. It turned out the biggest culprit was gluten was the biggest problem, but the more stressed I got, like from my job and everything, my body was inflamed. So a lot of things just weren't going down. Gluten wasn't, processing correctly. So I started to study health and nutrition. I first started, believe it or not, just online. I took a class at Framingham State College, online for nutrition because I was just like, just trying to find answers. What can I do to help myself? But I had a lot of really bad incidents. And this is a tip for the audience, anybody out there listening. If you're going through any kind of health challenges on the job, get it documented. This was my biggest mistake because I did go into anaphylactic shock on the job. I had times where I'd be eating dinner, phone's ringing, I'm stressed out, trying to eat my dinner. I'm only one in there. So I remember that, my throat closing up. And I put my feet up on the desk and I was just like, oh God, don't get busy, right? And it would pass like within a half an hour. I'm lucky I'm not dead. And there were times I'd go in the bathroom, put my feet up because that would get the blood flow right into the heart. So hopefully my throat would stop closing up. Don't recommend that. Please get an EpiPen if you have allergies. But yeah, so I recommend, there were two things I was stubborn about. We were always short. So I was like, oh my God, who the heck is going to do my job if I go to the hospital, right? There's nobody here to relieve me. And B,
thinking more about the job than your
Job
own.
than yourself.
yeah, I didn't want to go to the hospital. So it was two things. But if you are even in a job and you're having health issues, whatever, get that stuff documented. Go to the doctors. Go, even if you don't want to, it doesn't matter. Get it documented. Because if anything happens to you and you've got to leave that job, now you've got it all on paper. You can get legal repercussions and all of that. I mean, what happened to me, nobody cares. You know what I mean? They don't care. I mean, it's not documented anywhere. So it didn't happen as far as they're concerned. Nobody cares. So that's my tip for the audience. That's the biggest mistake I made. I'm stubborn. I didn't want to be at the hospital, but the other reason was what an idiot. I'm like, who's going to do my job? So don't ever do that to yourself. Take care of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell us about your discovery that you had multiple food allergies. I know you just touched on it a little bit there, but I mean, go a little more in depth about your studies on it, and then your journey on to finding medical help or your
Okay.
different procedures that you use to alleviate that and trying to be able, and especially up to the Lyme disease. I'm ready for that one.
Okay. So as far as the multiple food allergies, so it turned out here, let me go backwards a little bit. When I was 21, I had to have my tonsils out and my glands were extremely swollen. I was still living with my mother at the time, but I was, again, a stubborn kid, didn't want to go to doctors. Mind you, I always had to have shots every 3 weeks. So last thing I want to do was go to any more doctors anymore. So my glands were swollen. It wasn't getting better. I remember trying to turn my neck. It wasn't getting better. So my mother was like, you need to go to the doctors. I was like, okay, I'll go. So they told me that my tonsils had to come out. Well, right after I had my tonsils out, now I was working in retail at the time. I was 21. Right after I had my tonsils out, it took me 3 weeks to get back on my feet. I couldn't get anything down. I couldn't get like apple juice down. I couldn't get the medicine they gave me down. I couldn't get chicken broth down. I kept gagging on it all. So fast forward, now I was in my 30s when I had that huge anaphylactic shock episode on Christmas night. It all started to add up. I started to figure it out. There were times I would try to eat something and it wouldn't go down. I couldn't swallow it, even when I was younger. It was after I had my tonsils out. So it turns out all that time I had some sort of allergies and I didn't know it. So that's why I couldn't swallow the apple juice. That's why I couldn't swallow the whatever, the medicine, chicken broth, whatever. I was allergic to those things. So that's why I was gagging. So I had gone back to the doctor. Now I dropped down to 92 pounds. And once again, my mother was like, "You're going back. Something's wrong." Now it's 3 weeks later after I had my tonsils out, dropped down to 92 pounds. He looks at me, he's like, "You're healing fine. See you later." Could have killed me. He could have killed me because here I was eating things I was allergic to. That was the reason my glands were swollen in the first place. Because here was the key. They were swollen, but I didn't have a sore throat inside. So that's the key. Like it was just something was going on there that was making it swollen. And the more stressed out I got, of course, that's when it would rear its ugly head. So it turned out it took years to figure this out. Lots of doctors and different practitioners and alternative healers. That the biggest culprit was gluten. I wasn't digesting gluten, and then other foods wouldn't go down. But man, what a journey. I mean, I went to nutritionists. They tried to put me on like Boost. They tried to put me on like, those shake supplements and things like that.
Everything that was gluten.
It was too many chemicals. I looked at it. I remember holding it up and I'm going, "There's too many chemicals in this thing. I can't eat it. I can't have this." I had to go back to basics. I had to go back to whole foods so my body could digest it. So that's when I took a whole food course, which that kind of woke me up too, as to how food can really heal the body.
So the course of all that time, how many months or how many years you think from the time you really figured out that you had the multiple food allergies to the time you really nailed it down and was able to come up with something to help you?
Oof. Well, I went back to school for nutrition. I went to Worcester State University after I took the online course at Framingham. So I did that a couple of years. I went to the New York School of Integrative Nutrition. That was probably about, 3 or 4 years right there that I studied nutrition. And then by 2009, I went to the Integrative School of Nutrition and became a certified health consultant. And that's when I started to get it under control. Like I started to know how to control it. What was my biggest culprit and how to control it. At the same time I was going to integrative nutrition is when I was taking the raw food course in Boston. And yeah, call me crazy. I was like going to New York. I was going to Boston. It was crazy. And working. I was still working. I was all over the place. But yeah, that was really amazing. Such an eye-opening journey to take a raw food class, because that was 10 weeks long. So that was based on Hippocrates Health Institute. If you don't know about Hippocrates, he's the one who always said, "Let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food." So I really learned about eating
organic
sprouts, wheatgrass. I didn't even know what wheatgrass was. Just eating whole foods without cooking it. So from there, that's going to lead into the Lyme disease thing. I started to teach classes on whole foods after I took that course. So I started to teach in Central Mass just how to make food without cooking it. So one of the women that took my class, it turned out her husband wasn't feeling so well. Her mom died from Lyme disease, but it was misdiagnosed as ALS. So she took my class, and then fast forward, we stayed in touch, like, I don't know, through Facebook probably. And little by little, she started to develop this organization called Central Mass Lyme Foundation. So it turned out her mom was misdiagnosed with Lyme, found out her husband had Lyme disease. I did a talk for their first conference for Lyme disease, and I also started going to all the Lyme disease support group meetings because she'd bring in speakers. So the more I learned, the more I could teach. I'm definitely like an educator, a networker. I help people that way. So that's kind of how it fell into my lap. So she had a couple of conferences a few years in a row. I was on the committee, and I just kept meeting more and more people with Lyme disease. And I even went to Philadelphia. I met some of the gurus that the doctors that are on the big what's the word I want, organization, and it's called International Lyme Association Disease Society. They nicknamed it ILADS, and that's ilads.org. ILAD as in dog, S as in Sam.org. And I met some amazing doctors. One of them just passed away. He's treated thousands and thousands of children, Dr. Charles Ray Jones. So yeah, it kind of just fell into my lap. And so I've learned about Lyme disease and how debilitating it is, how people don't know they have it, how lots of doctors don't know how to treat it because it is so hard to diagnose. It's a mimicker. It mimics other illnesses such as fibromyalgia, MS. We talked about it, lupus. Yeah, it's known as the great imitator. That's the words I want. Sometimes Parkinson's even, or ALS. So it's related to a lot of those types of illnesses.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very wide list of different illnesses that, and now we can see why it takes years and years and years of research on a patient. I'm sorry, and well, I guess if you have a good doctor, they won't quickly diagnose you, but they will run tests. So a lot of people are like, well, my doctor's just running these tests and they're not finding anything.
Right.
Now, I don't think that's in a case that there's nothing wrong with you and they're trying to find anything, but they're really trying to find out what this is. And this is a prime example here of that type of situation. And
Mm-hmm.
then another type of situation is like you say, it mimics so many other diseases that you may have a doctor, and it's no disrespect to either of them, but
No.
you will have a doctor that will diagnose you with one of those many. And once you're misdiagnosed, now you're being mistreated.
Right.
Not mistreated, but the
Like
treatment is
giving the
not
wrong
right.
medication.
So now the medications could also be in conjunction not doing well for you because you shouldn't be having them. They could have an adverse effect with the disease or what's in your body. So now just you explaining that opens up your eyes, and your mind to, oh, I see why, someone else I knew was going through this situation, or what they were switching up to different medicines or getting different diagnoses, because it seems like, especially Lyme disease and some of the others, they are all the great mimickers of each other.
Right.
Seems
Yeah.
to me.
It's very hard to diagnose, and it all depends on where people are at with the illness. Some people have it chronically. If it's caught in time, it can be treated, better, but I'm a true believer almost any illness can be reversed. And, full disclosure, this is not medical advice, not meant to treat, heal, or cure anything. Almost any illness can be reversed, but I will say Lyme is probably the hardest, or even lupus. You need a combination of things. You can't do it alone with just diet. You might need herbs. You might need Western medicine. It just depends on where you are in the illness. Everybody's different. You might need a combination of things. Some illnesses you can just change with diet. You could have, just eat whole foods, no low sugar. You can, but I would say something like that is just so complicated, very, very hard to diagnose. And if anybody's out there, I just want to give you some of the symptoms. And we were talking about this earlier. Lyme disease and lupus are very similar, and also mold toxicity is very similar. Some of the symptoms would be joint pain, headaches, TMJ, lower back pain, joint pain in the knees, the hips, vision problems, hearing, sensitivity to sight, sensitivity to sounds, those types of things. It affects the nervous system. Sometimes cell towers can really bother people. Can't sleep at night. So, and then of course
It
it affects
was
the gut.
crazy.
That's where I come in.
What you
Thought
say?
I was crazy when I told people that a lot of people are not my friends on Facebook now because I'm like, I do research. I mean, like, and
Mm-hmm.
here we are right here. Thank you, ma'am, for the years of the research that you came out and said the same thing that I was telling people. So this is very valuable information. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, our bodies, man, are subject to everything in this universe. I mean, for people to think that radio waves, telecommunication waves, or electromagnetic fields and all of this won't uh oh well it can go through, yeah, but for how long can you be subject to these different frequencies and everything, the different frequencies they try to use that humans may not even supposed to be subjected to. This is what people are not understanding, is
Mm.
that and that's another great point you came up with, because some of these diseases can be also affected greatly by your environment and what
Yeah.
you're around.
Yeah. Strong smells. They can't use anything toxic on their bodies because they're so sensitive. Yeah. They have to have all organic products. Um, Allergies, they wind up with high allergies, like lots of food allergies, lots of food sensitivities, because Lyme disease affects the gut already. It forms these like spirochetes, so it gets in the gut, so it's already destroying the gut, and then people wind up on antibiotics and medicines and all of that, so that destroys the gut even more, and they wind up with more food
Yeah,
allergies.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's how I kind of came into the picture as far as being able to help somewhat with that, because that's my specialty.
Wow.
So yeah, it's complicated. It really is. It's a
I
lot of
see it
people
is.
around with that.
And it's like it opens up a can of worms. I think Miss Denise, I think you have a few questions because
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. I was
yeah,
just enjoying what both of you were
I
saying,
can
and then
see
I was trying
your
to
moving hands.
take notes because some of what you were saying, yeah, is really important. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, I am gonna step in, guys. I have a couple of things to say before we get into the questions.
Yeah, of course.
Derrick Davis has been an incredible asset to us, guys, and he's is going to be coming up in the next couple of months with some great things to be offering you guys. So please stay tuned to Entrepreneur Empire and Community Resources for Community Building, because Derrick Jaybird Davis Lokester Beats, okay, has some wonderful courses. And what we're gonna be having webinars, all these things to help you better your business and help you grow and succeed. And we're trying to build a community here. And we want to thank Miss Paula again. And I'm going to start asking her some questions that are meaningful to me, because she is a big advocate for Lyme disease. And I've only known a little bit about it because you can get it through different type of things. But how did you come about wanting to be an advocate for that, for Lyme disease?
Yeah, so like I said, it just kind of fell into my lap from Michelle taking my class of teaching raw food back whatever year that was. And then fast forward, she had that first conference for Lyme disease. And when I started to see how people were getting treated and ignored more and more because of they'd go to the doctors to try and get treated or diagnosed, or it was story after story. It was just like heartbreaking. So I knew, like I said, the more I met these amazing doctors, speakers, I had to get the word out too. Like, people might have Lyme disease. Get yourself tested. And the more I learned about it, the more I teach and help
And
people,
and
to
that's
let them
crazy
know
because
what you're going
myself,
through.
yeah, I'm sorry. Myself, I've only known, and I'm very ignorant to. I'm seen super ignorant to the disease because the last I've ever heard of it, and the only that I've heard of it was when I was a child. Stay out of those trees, and my mama checking my body for ticks and and things like that. And I've always only known that if you had a tick that you can get the Lyme disease. So I've always thought that, if you had a tick and you got Lyme disease, then they'll go and treat you, and then it's you're all good from there. I did not know any of the other stipulations about Lyme disease. So I mean, like, this is like,
Believe it or not, I'll let you know this. It's actually easier if people get bit by a tick and remove the tick with like tweezers. It's easier to test that tick for the illness than
Mm.
you. Believe it or not.
wow.
Yep. So we encourage people, like back in Massachusetts, I believe it's tickreport.com. That goes through UMass. So it's a good, like they'll test the tick, let you know if it has Lyme disease. And not only that, but now it's going in a database and they can, they've got like some kind, whatever that word is, entomology. They can keep a database and study how many ticks coming through, all of that. So with Lyme in certain areas, and this way they can continue to study it. So we always encourage people when I was in Mass. I'm not sure where it would be in other states. You'd have to look it up, like where you can send the tick to. But that's, if you ever get bit by a tick, you want to remove it, save it, and find that place where you can send it to, because they can study it, and it's easier to test that tick than it is you. As far as preventing it, I just want to tell you guys quickly. If like we got springtime coming out, and I know not everybody wants to do this, but like say you're out gardening, you put like rubber boots on, they can't crawl up the boot. The ticks can't crawl up the boot. You want to tie your hair back if you're a woman. Make sure your hair's tied back because they like the back of the neck.
Mm.
Um, you want to make sure you put some kind of DEET on. I know it's a chemical, but that will help you prevent the ticks from coming on you. You could also use permethrin treated clothing. Don't put it on your skin. But some people that are really, really outdoorsy, that keeps the ticks from coming on them. They get permethrin treated shoes, clothing, that keeps the ticks from coming on them. I have a friend that loves to hike. What he does is he just takes a lint roller, the sticky kind. That gets all the ticks off you when you come in. Put your clothes in a hot dryer for 20 minutes. That'll kill the ticks. Um, Washing machines don't kill them, unfortunately. So you just want to put your clothes in a dryer. Take a shower when you come in. If you're an outdoorsy person, you like hiking, all that kind of stuff. Spring's just around the corner. So just want to give you some quick tips as far as that goes. And never like pour stuff on the tick, because it'll start to embed in you. You want to just get good tweezers. Tickies and I don't endorse them, but he's a friend. Tickease.com, TICKEASE.com is a little kit with tweezers. I think it has like a magnifying glass in there. That'll pick the ticks off. You can check that out. So, just different things. Like if you're hiking or whatever, make sure you always have some kind of tweezers or something so you can get that tick off of you. And like I said, save it. Put it in a baggie, a jar, whatever you got, and send it off, because it's easier to test the tick than you. And I'll just tell you one more thing about testing. If you're human and need to be tested, they do two tests. That usually they do the ELISA, which is about 50% accurate. That comes back in a couple of days. Or they do the Western blot, and that's about 80% accurate and comes back in a couple of weeks. They are starting to do more extensive testing, but you got to know what you want and ask for it, and find people that actually do it. And that's like kind of complicated, but they test for like 200 to 300 different co-infections.
Mm.
Now that could come up positive, and that's how you would know it's under the umbrella of Lyme disease. Why it doesn't come up as Lyme, I don't know. There's different bands. It's scientific. But for some reason, when you do those other tests, something will come back positive, and now you know what you've got. So it's all different
Those
Yes.
infections. Yeah.
those were some great takeaways, especially with the
They
lint
were.
brush and the putting them in the dryer. You said for
Yep.
about 20 minutes,
Yeah. The
and
heat.
then
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It'll kill them. Yeah.
Those were some great takeaways. So, tell us about your book, But God, I'm Still Here.
Yeah, sure. So my book is an anthology. So as you can see, there's 9 other beautiful women also in the book. But my chapter, without going into too much detail, I think I talked about it a little bit earlier. Um, I talk about how the enemy has tried to take me out since birth. So, just to give you an example, without reading the book, I talked about multiple food allergies. I almost died quite a few times from going into anaphylactic shock. So, that wasn't the only time that I almost died. There were a few other times in my life. So, I started to think about it. I was like, oh my gosh, enemy's been trying to take me out since birth. So I really just talked about that in my chapter, but I highly suggest getting the book, not just for me, but some of the stories in this book of these women, the things that they've conquered, they're just real conquerors, you know, different things like, I think like abortion and
Mm.
just different, um, all different really tough things. And they're just amazing conquerors in that book. I was in tears reading their stories and what they've overcome and not just gone through, but what they're doing now. Like they're just, I can't even tell you, like they're very outgoing, you know, and an inspiration. So definitely suggest getting the book. It's on my website, enrichyourhealth.com under the store. So, and we have the link I think that we're going to put up.
Okay. So you collaborated with others.
Yes. Yep.
Yes, that's nice. Me and my sister are gonna do that as well in the future, hopefully by August or September. And I know I want to write a book as well,
Oh,
because every day that you wake up, that is a testimony. That is your passion to find your purpose and your calling.
yeah.
Um, and like you said, the devil has tried to take you out so many times that you be like, but you know what? I'm still here.
I am still
What
here.
you got today? Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Um, so that was an inspiring testimony that you have.
Hmm.
Can you give us some tips in how to improve our own health and
Yes, absolutely.
talk a little bit more about the foods?
Yeah, sure. So, one of the biggest tips I have, this was mind blowing to me. Believe it or not, the easiest thing in the world you can do is get more water or the right amount of water. Water, as you can hear right now, I need water. I'm getting a little raspy because I worked all day. Um, but water can do so many things for you. So, we talked about allergies, like even seasonal allergies, which is right around the corner. People are going to be sniffling and sneezing any day now. Um, if you drink water, this started to help me tremendously. And again, this is my experience. It's not to say it's a cure, everybody's different. But the reasoning behind it is you have to look up your many cries for water. Dr. Batman, something or other, he's Indian or Pakistani, I forget. He did this study in a prison about water in Iran. And he learned all these things about water and how much it can help. And it's amazing. So I started to drink water when I was starting to get whatever, stuffed up, sniffly, sneezy from the season. So I had bad allergies. Well, lo and behold, the more water I drank, guess what? My allergies got better. So
Mm.
water is unbelievable. The reason it helps is
Yes.
because you, it hydrates you. So you get more dehydrated the more, you know, like when you do antihistamines and things like that, you get dehydrated from that. So the water hydrates you. So it helps you um, from being, you know, dehydrated. And so now you're not producing as many histamines and things like that. So that helps you. And like I said, it helped me tremendously. It was like, oh my God, I don't have to do all these over the counter drugs anymore or, you know, go to the doctors. And I used to do like, oh, what was that one? Afrin. And my nose would get addicted to it. So now I'd be like all stuffed up on one side. I had to go to the doctors just to get unstuffed. And it was a nightmare. I used to have to lock my windows, my doors, everything. So water is key, like for allergies, even asthma. It's helpful for weight loss because you get bloated if you're not hydrated enough. Believe it or not, if you've got back pain, because your discs shrink when
Mhm.
you're not hydrated enough, so you want to get enough water. You need half your body weight in ounces.
Yeah.
Um, what else is water good for? I'm trying to think.
Yoga and meditation is good for that too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So water just can really, really help a number of things. It flushes everything out. Like even when COVID first started, they told people drink water. It's going to flush everything out. It helps with elimination in the body, helps flush everything out. That's where the weight loss comes in. It helps with weight loss. Fatigue, definitely. You could be tired because you're just dehydrated. You don't have enough water. Headaches. If you have a headache, drink water. That's why you have a headache, because you're dehydrated.
Mhm.
So that's one tip. The next tip I would say, get sunshine. Sunshine gives you vitamin D
Vitamin
that
D.
boosts the immune system. So you want to get outside, get 20 minutes of sunshine, especially if you're battling some sort of illness. Get outside, get that fresh air. If you remember back in the day, remember when we got the flu? Guess what mom would do every time? Most mothers would do this. Like as soon as, done being through the house, they'd open the windows, wash
Yep.
all the
Yep.
blankets and sheets, and, get that air circulating. Open your windows, get outside. I know it's cold out in a lot of places, but even if you can get out for a little bit, or open your windows for a little
Yeah.
bit.
Opening your windows can even change your attitude and the atmosphere in the house. But
Yeah.
I just
It
have
does.
to
Yeah.
ask you this question,
Yeah.
um, because you went from eating regular foods to eating whole foods and then eating the whole foods raw.
Mm-hmm.
How did that process work for you? And did it taste good in the beginning?
Well,
If
it
if
wasn't
for someone out there that
easy.
wants to try it, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it wasn't an easy transition, but like I said, I took a whole raw food class. And basically all that means is we learned to eat foods that were whole without cooking them. So we did a lot of we made, like, I just had a woman call me that took my class, like, I don't know, it's been like 10 years. She's like, how do I make that lasagna? And I'm like, I don't have the recipe, but I kind of know it in the back of my head. Like, but we would make lasagna with like zucchini noodles, a pesto sauce, and then just layer it. So there's no like ricotta cheese, and then you would use like tomatoes for the sauce or just a pesto sauce. I think one time I did it with sun-dried tomatoes, but you would eat like fruits, vegetables, nuts, sea vegetables, things like that. I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, your foods can be lightly steamed, nothing 115 to 18 degrees, nothing over that, nothing over 118 degrees. So you can lightly steam vegetables so that it would keep its nutrients. But yeah, no, it wasn't easy. I don't know if I went all raw, but I was eating a lot more whole foods because that's all my body could handle. I would
Mhm.
try to cook when I had my food allergies at its worst. I'd try to cook a meal. I'd be all excited. I'm like, okay, I got pot roast going or whatever it was. I'd take 2 bites and it wouldn't go down. I was like, oh man.
Oh
So I
wow.
couldn't eat it. I'd freeze it because I could rotate foods. I'm like, I'll try this another day. And that's what the biggest problem was. Like, I wasn't digesting a lot of things. So I just freeze it. I'm like, I'll eat this another day. And then, like maybe a month later, I could eat it. But yeah, I was like, I'm not throwing it away. I don't want to waste my money. But it was a lot of trial and error. But yeah, I just learned to eat a lot. Like, I taught the world to make a kale salad. I never thought in a million years I'd be eating kale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Well,
yeah. Another one was dandelion. Here's a
mm,
funny story. My dad used to pick dandelions. The yard could not have a dandelion in the yard, right? Well, fast forward years later, what do I love? I love eating dandelion. And you would have told me back then I was going to eat dandelions? Yeah, no.
mm, are
No,
you
my mom used to say it too. She used to say that she's like, "Oh yeah, that was a delicacy. We used to eat those growing up." I'm like, "Well, you can have them. I'm not touching." Now I love dandelion with like a honey mustard dressing. Oh yeah, it's really good. And it's good for the liver. Mhm.
Mm,
Yep.
okay. Okay. Wow.
Mhm.
Might have to try that. But see, this is the perfect opportunity, guys, when Mr. Derrick Jaybird Davis was talking about that owl app, because I am definitely going to be calling her with this recipe for the lasagna because I would have never thought to make lasagna with zucchini.
Yeah.
And I like zucchini, but
Yeah. Just layer the zucchini with some pesto and you got a little lasagna. And what I would do back in Massachusetts, because raw food obviously is cold, most of it's cold. You could, oh, that was the other thing. You could eat warmed soups. Like just don't cook them too hot. You could also have warm soups. What I would do is just turn the oven on a little bit and not cook it. Just warm it slightly so that if it was winter time, I was still getting it a little bit warmed and I wasn't cooking it all the way through. So it'd be
Yeah.
warmed.
mm,
Let me
those
ask
are
you
some
this: have you
great
ever tried to make vegetable or fruit smoothies?
Oh yeah, I do that all the time.
So you have
I love
recipes in that
those.
too?
Yeah, I have recipes on the
Oh,
website even if
okay.
you go to
Yeah,
the
I have that.
store
Hmm.
and
Bananas and berries. I haven't gotten into the like the green, what is that? The not zucchini, but the green avocado with mixing them with the fruit chip. I can't go that far.
Wow.
I
Okay.
like the
Yeah.
fruit to stay with the fruit section, but
yep,
oh, that looks so good.
yep. So I have
Check
a
this
smoothie
out,
book
guys.
on
Check
there.
this
Yeah,
out.
Mm.
yep.
Oh, this is already a YouTube short clip.
Yeah, those are digital ebooks.
Wow.
So with recipes. Yep. Simple. I like to make them simple. So a lot of my digital ebooks and recipes are like gluten-free, dairy-free, low sugar, anti-inflammatory, because that all helps with things
Yeah.
like food allergies, food sensitivities, and even autoimmune, because you can't have a lot of sugar, can't have things that are, cause inflammation. So,
Hmm. Yeah, our grandson is he has to drink that 2% milk. And when my son was coming up, like tomatoes or just raw tomatoes would do something to his skin. So yeah, this would be good to know and have.
I see
mhm.
my book already. All right, my book is right there. Simple smoothies,
Yep.
dairy free.
That's a
Yep.
fruit smoothies, Jaybird.
Yep. Well,
Okay.
we'll see. I mean, I've heard of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
making vegetable smoothies. Do you make you have vegetable smoothies also?
I do. What I like to do is a little bit of greens with my fruit because that keeps your
Yeah.
blood sugar balanced, so you
Hmm.
don't crave more sugar. A lot of people don't realize that they throw all this fruit in there or yogurt and all this stuff, and then of course you crash because you got that sugar rush.
Yeah.
But I put like a handful of greens, like a handful of kale, handful of greens. Like I've got a couple of arrow gardens back there. I'll take some greens from that, throw that in my smoothie. Mm-hmm.
And I think in some people's vision, they think of trying to like, okay, I've never eaten a fruit with a vegetable at the same time. So they might be thinking like, okay, I'm eating an orange, then I'll bite into a tomato, while eating a fruit, a
Yeah.
pineapple, with
Like a
some green.
V8 juice.
And I don't think they can put in their mind, oh, I could not ever stand V8. But there are a couple of others, but V8, it's simply because the V8 was just,
Mm.
it wasn't like a smoothie. It was just something, it was like castor oil to me. It wasn't the taste I didn't like, it was that I couldn't get it to go down.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I didn't drink that. Yeah, I didn't drink that.
I couldn't stand
I
that
know it's
stuff.
healthier for you, so I'm gonna start doing it. But I
Hmm.
just have to get with the green and mix it with the fruit. I just got to get over that. I'm like Jaybird. I just got to get that out of my mindset.
Well, you don't. Yeah, you don't want to mix vegetables with fruit. Like no broccoli with strawberries. They digest at different times. Bad idea. But if you do just greens, just a handful of greens, like spinach, kale, lettuce, it helps with your blood sugar. So
Okay.
you won't even know they're there. You might see the difference in color,
Mhm.
before
Yes,
they're there.
exactly.
Well, thank you for that because we have a sugar person in the house too. So yeah, that's good. If it's good for diabetics, then it's
Yeah,
good.
Yep.
myself also. But I have cut back on sweets a whole lot though in recent
Mm-hmm.
years.
Yeah. Him and my husband used to work together and go into the grocery store. They used to come with these bags, their own personal stacks and stuff, that they can't share with the family because they got
Oh
to take
no.
it back and forth to work. And now all
Oh,
these years of doing that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we used to work 12-hour shifts, man, and like a lot of times, we were like plant operators, chemical plant operators, and material handlers working at a world-renowned chemical plant that's no longer with us, man. But anyway, so there was long hours you had to sit and eat. And man, I had gotten up to, I was always very, very skinny all of my life until I started working there because I could sit on my butt a whole lot and eat. And a lot of stuff was just straight Skittles and Starburst and my
Oh
drinks and
boy.
potato
Yeah.
chips and sandwiches. I still, and a lot of people's minds also, they think if they eat good foods that they can eat a lot of that too. And that's not true. Is that,
No.
Paula? I guess some people think that, oh man, if I eat good foods, then the bad foods that I eat, it will offset it. And I was one of those people, So it's
Oh
like
yeah.
eat healthy too. So this shouldn't bother me. And like you say, man, sooner or later, by being ignorant and not researching, um, you know, and not taking sound advice, it catch up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're scrambling trying to find out how to save yourself, save your health, and it's like
Right.
a lot of times, and sometimes a lot of things that we get are not our fault. Like I say, sometimes it's hereditary, and you
Right.
find out later. But eh, uh, eh, through this whole interview, everybody, the main thing is to make sure if you're having any symptoms of anything, just don't sit there. Make sure you go and try to get checked,
Right.
and from the beginning, try to live a lifestyle to where you're eating healthy, exercising from the beginning. And maybe later in life when you do find out you have something, the effects won't be as bad because you are already living a healthy lifestyle. Because I think a lot of people think that even though they live a healthy lifestyle, that they may not ever get cancer or they may not ever get sick. But we
Oh no.
never know
True.
what we may get sick from. But we still want to be as healthy as possible. If we find out these things, it'll be a whole lot easier to recover from them. If there's any kind of cure or anything to help you, it'll be a lot easier to bounce back from that. Yeah.
And
Yep.
make sure that you ask about your hereditary illnesses and diseases on both sides of the family because it might skip and you
Mm,
never know what you might have if you
right.
don't get checked at least yearly, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
And gentlemen, and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, Paula
Gentlemen.
Denoncourt. You remember that song? Let get in the house, but no, we're having fun tonight. But I have a funny story about water because it's not that I don't like water; it's that I don't trust a lot of water. I
Mm.
want pure water. And it's almost like all of my life I didn't like water. Certain toothpastes I didn't like. And it's not that people are like, oh, you just don't like to brush your teeth. But my body was like, my mind was like, man, something's not right. That was my body telling me that. And so later, yeah, I wasn't supposed to have all that fluoride and different things. And I needed natural ways to brush my teeth, baking soda and other things. And the water I was drinking then, it's like it affected me. I didn't like it, so I just stopped drinking water a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it had a bad toll on me. I lost a lot of weight because I have no water weight. I know for sure I've been dehydrated. I may be dehydrated now, but I do drink water a lot more. But my story is that in December, I had COVID back in 19 before they announced it. I
Oh, you
know I
did.
did. I was sick. I had it. So, I battled it, came back from that was the worst I've ever been sick in my life. And I hardly ever get sick. Hardly ever get sick, but I was sick. So anyway, this past December, I was starting to feel those symptoms again, but not as bad. But I was dizzy.
Mm.
Of course, my body temperature went up. I was running in temperature, and that so I laid down and tried to fight it off. I had the chills, the normal symptoms and everything, but it started to get worse. So I was monitoring my temperature, and I was like, man, if it get up to 102.3, I'm gonna have to hurry up and have my wife to take me to the hospital or something like that, because I'll die at 103, So I'm laying there, and I didn't want to get up, and I was very weak. So I had just one of those moments where it's like I used all of my energy to be able to turn over on my sofa. I was laying on my sofa back here behind me in my studio, and the room was pitch black dark, and there's a chair over here in this corner. And I swear I saw a silhouette sitting in that chair with their legs crossed, rocking. And I was scared to move. And then my grandmother's voice came to me, y'all. And she said, and it was her. She said, now you get up and you go in there and you go get you a cold glass of water and you're gonna be all right.
Wow.
I mind you, my grandmother was a pediatric nurse her entire adult life for over 40 years at a world renowned hospital here in Augusta, Georgia. But she was one of the head nurses of that ward, and she was like you. She was a health advocate too. She helped advocate for like Camp Rainbow for kids that had cancer, for them to
Mm,
enjoy some parts of life and being able to go places before a lot of those they already knew that those kids were going to end up being on hospice. And she took over that. So my grandmother, man, she was on point with her skills. So to go back to the story, so she said, "Go get that cold glass of water." So I was like, "Man, I'm going crazy. I'm not getting up, man. I can't get up. I got these chills. I can't move. My body is aching." And
mm.
then she said, "Now, now," and that was my grandmother's way back then. She didn't curse often at all, but now was a curse word, meaning that when I get up, here comes the boom, a shoe, or something coming. Now. So I got up. And it took me maybe 10 minutes to make it to the kitchen because I was cold. I went in, there was no cold water in the refrigerator because someone left it out. It
Oof.
was on the dryer. And I looked at it. And this is crazy, y'all. I looked at it like, And she said, yeah, that'll do. This is going on in my head, y'all. So I grabbed the cup. I poured the water and I got to about 3/4 cup full, and I started to slowly, and the voice came, So I filled it up. I finally made my way back to the room with the whole cup of water, and I drank it down to about 3/4. I drank about 3/4 of it, and I was just like, I didn't want anymore, so I just wanted to get back in the bed. And the voice came to me and said, "Oh, you don't have to drink it all right now. But once you finish, you will feel better." That's my grandma. Once you finish, you will feel better. So I'm
Wow.
sitting in my mind thinking like, man, this got to be crazy, man. I know this is going on, but I'm thinking still I'm crazy. So I laid down and I went to sleep. I woke back up, took my temperature. It was still like 101.9. I remember it was
Mm.
fluctuating 101.9 to 102. And I looked at that cup and I swallowed the rest that was in there, rolled over, went to sleep maybe about another, probably waking up every 30 minutes. I woke up that next 30 minutes, you all, and it was back down to 89.7. I'm about to cry.
Oh, wow.
Mm,
Telling you,
yeah.
water is
Yeah,
amazing.
And
We
it's
yeah,
important to listen to those intuitions. It really, really is.
yeah,
Um, because you never know. It's like you could be driving down the street and something say go to the store to get some milk, but you keep telling yourself, "No, I got milk in the refrigerator." No, go to the store. You need some milk. No, I got milk in the refrigerator. And then you turn 2 blocks because you're gonna go home, and that's when something bad happens.
yeah.
So yeah, you have to listen to those, because they only
yeah.
trying to tell you and to love on yourself. But I
Hmm.
do have to ask you, Miss Paula, because you have been through so much in your life and you have done so much for others and contributed to others. And with your book, But God, I'm Still Here, what was your driving force? Because when you find out that was knowledgeable about Lyme disease, what was your passion behind wanting to spread this knowledge to the world?
What was my passion about wanting to spread Lyme
Or your
disease?
driving force? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, like I said, I think I said it earlier, just seeing all these people and meeting all these people that are just suffering so terribly with it that they need a voice. They need somebody to speak for them and educate and help. And I'm going to continue to do that.
And
I think
besides
you're in the
yourself,
right
is there
place.
anyone else in your family that has this illness that you know of?
Well, I suffered from food allergies. I didn't have Lyme disease, but in my family, so I was adopted, but in my family, I did find out my cousin, Jason, has Lyme disease, and he's gone through a lot with it. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't. Okay.
Yep. He's younger. I'm 55. I forget how old Jason is. Maybe in his 40s now. But yeah, he's gone through a lot of from what I've heard. I mean, I'm not close with them, but from what I've heard, he's gone through a lot with the illness. And his sister has it.
Wow.
So she, and
Oh,
she
his.
yeah, his sister has
So,
it, and she's gone through a lot. She's been in a lot of pain, a lot of just really ill, put it that way, just really ill. And she also had mold toxicity, and I believe that was from they lived in an apartment that just that wasn't well kept. Not from them, but just the apartment building itself run down, so it had mold in it. And I believe she
Yeah.
got the mold toxicity from there, and then also the Lyme disease.
ooh,
Yeah.
Wow.
that
And
respiratory
that's
infection.
that's intriguing that you brought. I was about to touch on that earlier, but it didn't fall in place. But it did now that
Mm-hmm.
you bringing up that you were adopted or what so have you. And then you did mention earlier that it's very imperative for us to know both sides of our family history. So that probably could have led as well as maybe myself one day because I really never knew my biological father well. And
Yeah.
I've always thought, the two things that I only ever wanted was to know, my other if I had other siblings and who they were and
Mm,
Mm,
my medical history.
yeah.
And
mm-hmm.
I believe in myself, I have other kids abroad and they all don't have the same mother, but they all know each other. And right now they probably talking with each other. And that's the most important thing because if they're sisters and they're brothers,
Yeah.
and if anything ever happens, then we'll all know that we can be tested for something. My kids will know, okay, that's my sister, that's my brother, that's my father, and they can contact me, Dad. Hey, I'm telling my kids, hey, Alzheimer's running the family, y'all. Heart disease runs on my mother's side. Alzheimer's run on my grandfather's side.
Wait, that Alzheimer's runs in your family?
Yes,
Interesting.
yes, it
They're
does. Yep.
fi- they're finding that can even be related to Lyme disease. Believe it or
I,
not.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
remember you stating that when we were speaking on Al, that opened my eyes a lot too.
Yeah.
And that was a very wicked, wicked battle. We had with my grandfather. And him trying to get through Alzheimer's and how
Mm.
he passed. So it's like, man, this is very intriguing because it's like I believe that it does. All of this goes back to our healthcare. To
Mm-hmm.
our healthcare, what we're eating, what we're exposed to, and also to how we treat our bodies. And Paula, you're a very great representative for this. I believe you are maybe the one because uh, you've opened our eyes to a whole lot of other things, also not just the Lyme disease, but
Mm.
it's mainly the how to just get up when you have symptoms. Get up and go and check it
Yeah.
because it could be this, or get second opinions from your doctor or get
Yeah.
another doctor. Get three, get four.
Yeah.
If it's affecting your life and your livelihood and may as well, affect the family, or it's your duty to know this because you're leaving behind a lineage of your kids and grandkids. So at this point, whatever's going on with me in my life, it's my duty to find this out so that my kids, will and kids and grandkids will have that information.
Hmm?
Mm.
I'm going to bring up your Facebook group
Oh,
also.
thank you. Yeah, so that's my Facebook group. It's called Enrich Your Health and Life, and it's with a UR that you can see there. And it's just an amazing group of people. There's about 330 people in there. Would love for anybody to join that wants to join. Both you guys
Yeah.
join. I share
As you
recipes.
see, everybody go straight there because I just joined. I was waiting for the show to do that, everybody. I'm sorry.
Aw, you're awesome. I'll have to go in a preview. It was public, but then I was just started to get scammed a little bit, so get
Mm.
spam. So I had to just make it private. But yeah, no, go in and ask to join. It should be easy to find, and definitely join it. I share recipes all the time on there, helpful advice, all kinds of good stuff. And I'm going to be adding more, so stay tuned. Expand it a little bit more.
So that's great, you guys. Make sure Enrich Your Health and Life Facebook group.
Mm-hmm. We got 330 people in there.
You see her website, enrichyourhealth.com.
Yep.
And see, that's the driving thing. Like you guys got to remember, you are. That's the
Yep.
easiest way to find her. She's branding herself well, you guys. I can teach you about that also.
You.
and and her book, everyone. And you can get her book and everything straight from the website. Is that right, Paula? The book is on the
Yes.
website. The
Yep.
recipes. She has ebooks, meal plan guides, free stuff. I'm not going to click on all this because you guys are going to have to go to see for yourself. Make sure you go because I'm going to make you go because I'm not going to show you everything because it's very intriguing.
Yeah, I have a free ebook for reversing illness. So that gives you even more tips on how to reverse illness. And then
Mm.
the immunity meal plan guide.
And those are worth looking at
Mm-hmm.
because you reverse the inside, the outside can shine bright too.
Absolutely.
Yes,
The
yes.
mindset and all can change.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Yeah, your health from the inside out, your mind, your thinking. And that's what I try to tell people too. Everyone's out here in life trying to find external sources to validate themselves or to make themselves happy. So they got to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or multiple, or they have to eat a lot, or they have to indulge in shopping, or they have to indulge in sports, or they have to indulge in music like myself. Or, I mean, a lot of people miss the point that everything that's healthy for you is coming from within inside you because God gave us everything we need right within us. So,
Or a
a lot
backyard.
of times, yeah, a lot of
Mm.
times we don't seek inside. A lot of times I really do think that eh, it sounds crazy, but you can heal yourself from thinking about it. I mean,
You
I've had
can.
things going on with me, and it's like, I just started, just thought on it, and meditated on it, meditated. I've read some things about it also, and this stuff works, man. Your body works. In no one will ever know how incredible our body and our minds and our soul and our spirit really is until we get to those gates.
Mm-hmm.
But God really put us together. And I think a lot of the illnesses, I don't think God created us imperfect. I think a lot of our illnesses really did have to do with our environment.
Yeah.
I really do. It came from not, being natural and organic and going from the earth. And, we had the instructions. We had the instructions from God how to eat, what to eat, and everything. And I think when thousands of years when that got derivated from, we are the descendants of that.
Yeah.
So at this
Of
point
our
now we
body.
just have to
Yeah.
reverse it.
There's too much processed stuff out there, too much stuff in our environment, and stress. It's I'll call it toxic soup.
It is, yeah.
And it's yeah, I work full time and I answer phones for grocery stores. You should hear the calls like, why can't I get my soda? Why can't I get my ice cream? Why can't I'm like, learn to eat something else? I mean, I'll give you on this note. I remember one of my mother's friends. We were really all, we were really close to them. And I remember the husband when I started with the food allergies. I remember him going, well, I could never, he was Italian and a very bold, boisterous Italian, very like, well, I would never eat like that, and very, like really like putting me down. Like, what am I supposed to do? I have to eat this way, right? Do you know God got him because he wound up just before he died. He wound up diabetic, so he had
Mm,
the way I was eating.
Yeah.
He wound up
mm,
with diabetes just before he died. Yeah, and now he's 6 feet under too. He didn't take care of himself.
Yeah.
He wasn't that old. Probably, I forget how old he was. Maybe 70s. Not that old, you know.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah. It's a mindset thing because if you want to eat healthier, if you want to quit smoking or drinking and doing whatever it is to make your life better, you will. But again, it is a mindset thing.
and it doesn't have to. Some people think it has to be hard. You just have to make some.
Make it fun.
Just make it simple. Don't you don't have to make it hard. Like, here's another example. I'm in another group. It's a gluten-free group. I just joined it, and what I'm seeing in there, and I kind of thought I would because I see this in Lyme disease communities too. They just feed off of each other. And with gluten, they're just trading a gluten-free product for a gluten product, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. They're buying
Yeah.
like whatever it is, I don't know. Well, here's gluten-free pretzels, or here's like gluten-free Oreos, or and it's like, I don't know what they're eating every day, so I can't judge. But that's what I'm noticing. It's like, well, you gotta eat healthy. You gotta start changing your diet. You know what I mean? Your gut's going to be a mess whether it's gluten-free stuff or gluten. You've got to get that
Yes,
cleaned up,
exactly. Yeah.
you
And
know?
that's why it goes back to what I say. Some people think that I can eat bad stuff and the good
Right,
stuff is going to
right.
mix with it and balance it all out. And that's another perfect example when I was, a lot of
Yeah.
people think.
So that's, yeah, it's pay now or pay later. It'll catch up to you eventually. Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
besides the OWL app, Miss Paula, how can the viewers and listeners reach you and connect?
Okay, so the best way to connect with me is through the website. You can either reach me by phone, you can text me, we can set up an appointment that way. The phone number's on there. It's 508-330-9665, or the website, enrichyourhealth.com. Or either a Facebook Messenger or Instagram Messenger. I can be reached that way as well. So any one of those ways, if you're dealing with something and you want coaching, I do one-on-one coaching, group coaching, speaking engagements, and now I also have my own TV show called Overcoming Illness. So if anybody wants to be a guest, let me know.
Congratulations. Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Well, Miss Denise, I'm good for tonight.
Okay, okay. This has been another wonderful episode of Entrepreneur Empire, community resources for community building. Jaybird Lokester Derrick Davis is the producer, executive producer, along with myself. And we do have a team that will be adding on in the near future to help us along with our endeavors of bringing you guys some fabulous courses and webinars and some incredible features that you can have on your own video when you come on and be a guest onto our platform. So we do thank you for watching. Miss Paula has given you guys some great nuggets, some great advice, some great tips, and
Yeah.
especially the takeaways on how to look for these ticks and the resources that you need for checking up on Lyme disease in your community and talk more about it as well. So we want to thank Miss Paula for coming on. It was a pleasure. Again, you can find us, all three of us, on the OWL app. And you need to check out Miss Paula for some great tips and some more of those recipes that she can give you. Um, Even if you don't like to try the vegetables, you know, eat better and live healthier, everyone, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
A
And
lot
Miss
of
don't
Paula, would you like to
overestimate.
say anything?
gotta, yeah, gotta give it a, yeah.
And thank you guys for joining us. As always, be bold, be beautiful, and be blessed. Until next time.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. This was
And
amazing.
thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Good night, everyone.
Good night.